I think the key to our recruitment, as you know, it's confirmation that Josh Cogley has signed for somebody else. Then you know you need to look at a right back. I think the chairman has suggested that some of those offers that were on the table for the likes of Bristow, if somebody were to come in and offer the type of figures that were suggested for Ethan Bristow in the summer, I would think it would be hard for us to refuse to accept it. And in some respects, if that's in the background, it may well be that the recruitment is perhaps a little bit on hold until that comes in, because, you know, if we were to sign a player and then find that we've got an extra tranche of money that we could commit to that position, you're going to be perhaps a little bit rueful that you didn't wait. And, you know, we go to the old Johnny King scenario, shopping at Marks and Spencer's rather than B&M. I've updated it rather than the Harrods and things like that. But nonetheless, I think a lot of our recruitment will be based on timing of funds coming in, but also I do know for a fact that some of the agents don't necessarily release all the offers to their players. They actually sit on their hands, because in some agents' cases, they want to see what's on the table, who's going to contact them, who's going to inquire, how much money is available before they advise their client to sign, because they're also going to look a little bit daft if they get their client signing and then find, oh, there's a little bit more money in the pot and I could have got you an extra couple of £100 a week. So I personally, as long as we're not seeing everybody signing elsewhere, I'm not unduly concerned. For me, July's fine. Players are still on holiday. Players are still under contract, as we know. There will be conversations being had, but we're not just talking to one player. We're probably talking to 3 or 4 right backs. We're probably talking to half a dozen agents and things like that. And it's going to be a domino effect. Once players start signing, then you'll get an indication as to what the wages are, who's going where, and we'll just have to wait until then.
Just to go back to the point you've just made there on Bristow. So we know that there was interest on him in January, quite rightly, because he was so impressive for Tranmere last year, and Rovers refused to sell him. He's got 1 year left on his contract. There may or may not be a year option on that contract. We're not entirely sure. What is an acceptable fee for Tranmere to be selling him for?
Well, it depends on that option, doesn't it? An awful lot of it. But I think the figure that was quoted was in the region of £500,000. And
are Tranmere getting £500,000 for a player who's just finished mid-table in League Two, realistically?
I don't know. It depends who's spending the money, who's looking at him, because the one thing that he's got that is the thing that seems now to be the focus is athleticism. In days gone by, we looked at it, players, and sort of said, yes, he's quick, he can run, but fundamentally he's not the be-all and end-all. Now, the be-all and end-all does seem to be on that athleticism, and you look at his athleticism, and he's up and down the pitch. He has played in the Championship, and for a Championship player, that's not an awful lot of money, given the funds that are being thrown around in that division. It depends who comes in looking for him. I don't know who's been sniffing around, who's been watching him, but if we were to get that type of money, that's the type of figure that I'm sure you'd find hard to refuse. I suppose we always looked at it, and the suggestion was that there were Championship sides sniffing around Lee O'Connor, and on that basis, £500,000 was deemed to be realistic fee. That perhaps he's not in the as much demand as he was, given that he didn't feature at the end of the season. I suppose the other asset that people are looking at would be Josh Hawkes. I think you've got to bear in mind, it always used to be a case that panic signings in January, but in our divisions, teams don't splash the cash in January to the same extent anymore. They might in the Premiership, but certainly not lower down the leagues. There isn't a premium in January. So especially for a fullback, if you're going to build a side or build a defence, you build it at the start of the season. So the summer will be when you get your optimum transfer fee, I would suggest. That's me talking. I have no idea whatsoever. I must emphasise that. That's me doing my Kieran Maguire impersonation. But my view would be, if you're going to cash in on an asset, a defensive asset, you're going to cash in on him this summer. And so I would be surprised, given the business template that's been put forward for the development, and given the season we've just seen, that if, and of course it's dependent upon somebody coming in and offering an acceptable amount of money. If it's derisory, you just tell them where to go. But if it's an acceptable amount of money, it works every way for the club, and also as a demonstration of the development model for